Virtual office addresses are ruining LLCs and their chances of getting access to business credit, especially at scale. One of the main things that I'm noticing right now in this current economy is how banks and financial institutions are tightening up their criteria when it comes to working with businesses, specifically LLCs and corporations that have a virtual office address attached to the business address. So whether you're just starting your LLC and you're thinking of adding a virtual office address for the purposes of protection, or because you just flat out don't want to have your home address out there in the wild, out in the internet, I'm going to share with you in this video how you want to go about this the right way. If you've possibly already created your entity and you are already using an LLC, I'm going to show you some best practices at the end of the video that you can also follow to keep you from running into these denials and these red flags that people are facing right now. So why do people even choose virtual office addresses? Because this is one of the first places that you'll probably consider using, especially if you are running a lean budget. So whether somebody is a solopreneur, LLC, or an online business, this is one of the first places that I see people tend to kind of gravitate toward whenever they're setting up. A big reason for that is it's cost effective. I mean, let's keep it real here for a minute. If you had the option between having to go out and lease or possibly even rent out an expensive unit in your town or getting the same benefits by using a virtual office address, most of us would probably gravitate toward the virtual office address simply because it's cost effective and you're also going to get the same net benefit from having the proper address in place. Another reason for that is it's just relatively easy to use. I mean, you go to a company like Regis or like Opus and you say, hey, I want to rent out this address in downtown your area, or in specific, maybe in a rural place in your area, if that's where you conduct business. And you would pay what, 50, maybe $100 a month versus paying a few $1,000s a month to have that same net benefit. Two more things that I want to say of why people tend to use a virtual office address versus going out and getting a physical location, kind of like a brick and mortar, is you're going to protect your home address from it being out in the wild. So it being public record. A lot of people like to gravitate toward this, especially with anonymity, because you're able to set up a virtual office address and you're essentially able to separate yourself completely from having to use your home address, even if you're conducting business from your house. And then lastly, it looks professional on paper. Now, like anything else, there are some downsides, especially right now in this current climate that we're seeing with how banks and underwriters and financial institutions are starting to reconsider and reanalyze files that hit their desk when somebody's asking for a business line of credit, heck, even SBA type of funding, when they see a virtual office address. Virtual office addresses are getting flagged for high risk. That is not a typo. They are getting flagged for high risk. It's not just the industry classification, it's also the address that's attached to your business. A big reason for this is because virtual office addresses tend to rank high because in terms of high risk, because they share a commonality with hundreds, if not thousands, of other small businesses that may or may not be attached to the line of work that you do. Let me drive this point home. We were working with the client who had everything was A1. His personal credit profile was in the 800s. He was running over $500,000 in revenue in his business. He had his Experian business profile was built out. He had his DUNS number. He had his DUNS profile built out. He had been banking with two of the top banks in the country over the last, I'd say 5-6 years since he was conducting business. But every time he went in to try to ask for something as simple as a business credit card, let alone a business line of credit, he kept getting denied. Even after showing tax returns, even after showing financials, even after letting the banks know, I've been with you guys now for a couple of years. What's going on? You've seen my cash flow come in and out of these merchant accounts. And so I told them, hey, let's do this. Let's actually run a reverse search on your address to see what pops up. And so we ran a reverse search on his address, and lo and behold, there was negative press media attached to his address. Here's what that means. There was a company that had been doing business outside of that same address that he was renting out. And so the address on paper looked good. It was at a physical location. It was inside of the area that he was conducting business because obviously he didn't want to use his home address. It was in the state that he was conducting business, the whole 9 yard. But the media press that was on that address said that there was a white collar crime, essentially fraudulent, illicit activities that were conducted through that address. So he went back out to the bank and he told them, that company is not my company, nor did I start another company. Like, that has nothing to do with me. The issue is that the bankers and the financial institutions thought that he was just creating a separate entity, another shell company, just to be able to go out and conduct business and keep scamming people. But he said, look, that's not my business. So what we ended up doing was we ended up swapping out his business address altogether, which I'll give you a few more best practices toward the end of this video. But he ended up swapping out that business address, and lo and behold, he was bang off to the races. Two more things that you want to pay attention to when you are considering a virtual office address in terms of downsides is many are associated with mail forwarding companies. Now, even though we ran a reverse search on his business, one of the positives to the address that he had is that it wasn't considered a CMRA, which is a commercial mail receiving agency. Whenever you're doing a reverse search on your business address, you want it to be a non-CMRA, non-commercial mail receiving agency. Here's what that means in layman terms. If you are not physically able to go out, touch your office building, rent out a potential suite, rent out a meeting room so that you can conduct, again, operations, then it's not a legit physical virtual office address. A lot of people kind of get hung up on this because they say, Irv, it's virtual. Like, is it like, does it actually exist? Yes, it exists, but it's not a PO box, nor should it be registered as a PMB, a private mailbox number. Lastly, a lot of virtual office addresses have been linked to kind of like the first point that I gave you, to scams and shady operations. Reason for that is because there's such a low barrier of entry for you to just pay 40, 50, even $60. There's no credit checks when you're going out and you're getting a virtual office address. A lot of scammers are using illegitimate business formations, and they're processing them so that it looks legitimate through a virtual office address with no physical presence, which is why banks and financial institutions are starting to catch on to this, and why we're starting to see just a sea of red of denials when people have this improperly set up. Here are some real consequences, though, that I want you to pay attention to. Not just the downsides of what can actually happen. This is happening right now in real time. Business credit lines are getting denied in real time. You can meet, just like the client that we were working with before we ended up auditing everything, fixing it, he was off to the races. You could, quite frankly, meet every single criteria that there is. Revenue, credit score, time of business, even the industry could be considered a low-risk industry, but the fact that you have a business address that, again, gets screened as a high risk, that puts red tape around your file, and you end up getting denied for business credit lines. You could run into issues with opening up business bank accounts. We see this all the time, especially with banks. They have this thing called Know Your Customer, which is a regulation. They want to have as much data on your business and as much like green check marks next to every single data point on your business that they can get. Here's catch 22. Your business address, similarly to your business classification, ranks pretty high on the BS meter with the banks, because it's one of the easiest levers that they know that they can pull on whether or not someone's going to get approved or denied based on the validity of how the business is structured. And so you could run into some issues of just quite frankly, opening up a business checking account, a business savings account, let alone not being able to process any payments or any cash flow through that account. You're also going to run into higher risk audits and compliance checks. Virtual office addresses often appear on an audit watch list, kind of like on the back end. This is something that's going to be promoted. I'm giving you guys like some real sauce here, where on the back end of the algorithms, they're going to audit, is there any tax avoidance or fraud or shell companies that have been attached to said business address. Like, I'm going to go on a little tangent here, but I promise you guys I'm going to bring us back home on the blacklisted part of this. But similarly to when someone is selecting a business name, we've also seen people, maybe if this has happened to you, drop it down in the comments, where they can't get certain certifications licensing, they can't get an EIN number, or they quite frankly can't even get something as simple as a business bank account because the business name that they've selected is so closely tied or so similar to another business name that, again, did some illicit activities, maybe went under, maybe went bankrupt. And so now the business that they have that's legitimate, everyone else thinks, oh, that's this business that went under, or that's this business where it was a rig, or it was a ring, and they caught everyone doing fraudulent things. This is why you want to pay attention to not just the name, which it was like a side tangent, but the same thing is happening on the business address side. If it's too closely tied, and if you're not doing your due diligence on the address that you're picking up, I don't care how cheap it is. I don't care if it's 30 bucks a month, 50 bucks a month, 100 bucks a month. It doesn't matter if it's not serving your business. And then lastly, once they've, when I say they, I mean financial institutions, once they've checked your business address, if it doesn't check out inside of their database, they have a blacklisted, they have a blacklisted essentially network of addresses that they stay away from. This could be geographically, this could be within your state, this could be within your city, this could be within your zip code. And so it also happens with government agencies. So if you're in government contracting and if you have a business address that doesn't check out with them, guess what? It's going to get blacklisted and you're not going to pick up the government contracts that you want, or at least scale it to the level that you want to scale it to. So with all this said, what are some best practices when choosing your business address? You want to use a real, and I'm going to underline it, and verifiable office or co-working space with a physical presence. Remember what I just said a couple of minutes ago. You have to physically be able to walk in there and conduct business. And so if you wanted to maybe meet a client or meet a prospect or maybe meet a potential business partner that you're going to maybe JV a deal on, you can say, let's meet at the Starbucks, but I actually have a physical location that we can conduct business and do business out of. If your virtual office address doesn't offer that, then you want to consider changing the virtual office provider that you have. Secondly, make sure that the address that you're using appears on Google Maps. You want to physically be able to see it, use it. This is something that bankers are doing in real time. You're talking to them and they're behind the scenes and they're saying, yeah, so tell me what you do for a living. Okay, got it. They're not showing you the screen. I can tell you what they're doing behind the screen. So tell me, where's your business address located? I'm curious. Oh, yeah, down the street. Got it. Bang, bang, bang. They're typing it in, whether it's in the state that you're doing business in or another state if you're maybe banking outside of your area. And they're going to see, wait a minute, this thing is a warehouse in the middle of nowhere. Or wait a minute, this thing is a meat market. This guy said he's a consultant. No. Yeah, hey, we're going to let you know what we're going to do with your file here in the next couple of weeks. Be on the lookout for, yep, you guessed it, for a letter that we're going to be sending you. You've shot yourself in the foot, essentially, my friend. So don't make the mistake of not reverse searching or not even just flat out being lazy, not looking at the Google address, just flat out Google it. But don't also make the mistake of of just looking at a registered agent's address and thinking that that's okay, that you can just use that. You don't want to use that as your primary business address unless you're authorizing it to. In most instances, they're just going to carry out the legal paperwork for you. But if you want to use a registered agent for that, that's totally fine. But take it a step further and separate yourself by getting your own virtual office address, because keep this in mind. You have a registered agent who carries hundreds, if not thousands of files through that same address. And so the same way that you could end up getting a registered agent address that's faulty, the same way that it appears on the virtual office address, like the client that I mentioned that we were helping out, where he didn't know that there was white collar crimes being committed through that address that he thought he was renting and everything was all good. Same thing could happen on the registered agent side. If you want to let them handle your paperwork, let them handle your paperwork. But make sure that you create some separation and you actually do your due diligence and create your own virtual office address with the data that I'm giving you. And then lastly, if you must use one, assuming you're not going to use your home address and assuming you don't have a physical address, verified that it's tied to a private suite, not just a PMB, a private mailbox number. Private mailbox number is going to be seen as one and one the same as a PO box. And that's not going to, again, yield you the results that you're looking to get. If this seems like a lot to you, And if you want us to take a look at your business, run it through a complete audit like we do, and obviously this is just one of the data points that we look at with our clients when we're helping them build and install simple funding setups directly into their businesses, go ahead down below in the comments. It is pinned. Click where it says insideinnercircle.com, book a call with our team. We'll see where you're at, where you're looking to go, and see how we can help you out. If we can, we'll let you know right there. And if we can't, we'll at least give you some different levers that you can pull on in your business that'll help you take your business to the next level and leave you far better off than how you came in. But other than that, I appreciate you guys checking us out. Till next time, everyone, I will see you in the next video. Bye.